It was one of the most anticipated debates in modern political history. What went right? What went totally wrong? And most importantly, who won? Plus, we have Senator Ted Cruz on his endorsement of Donald Trump, and of course, what students here at Valpo are thinking tonight. It's all ahead on this edition of Valpo Town Hall. Thank you for joining us tonight on Valpo Town Hall here on VUTV. I'm Micah Topel alongside Carlos Cabaya and Teddy Reithmeier from College Democrats. Guys, thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
Before we get to talking about the debate, Senator Ted Cruz has made some recent headlines this past weekend. In yet another unusual twist in this historic election, the former Trump rival decided to reverse course on his earlier denouncement of Donald Trump this past weekend. Senator Ted Cruz formally endorsed Donald Trump. Here's a Texas senator defending his decision.
What happened to vote your conscience?
Well, it's a good question, and it's still what I would urge everyone to do. Look, I think in every election, each of us has to assess the candidates and assess the candidates who's going to defend freedom, who's going to defend the Constitution.
Right.
And, yesterday I wrote a long op-ed.
You did.
Laying out the reasons for announcing that in November I'm going to vote for Donald. Now, as you know, this was not a decision I reached easily.
I do know that.
These last several months have been like a lot of voters. This election is not a typical election. I feel confident I'm not the only voter here, I'm not the only voter in the state or in the country who is agonized about what's the right thing to do in this election.
Senator Cruz is quoted as saying, "After many months of careful consideration, of prayer and searching my own conscience, I have decided that on Election Day I will vote for the Republican nominee, Donald Trump." I want to open this up to our town hall panelists. What do you believe caused Cruz to have this change of heart? Is it a careful political calculation or a genuine change of conscience?
I think that Senator Ted Cruz has always wanted to endorse Trump. I think he really believes that if anyone's going to be the president of the United States, it's going to be Donald J. Trump. And I think that the only thing that really has prevented Senator Ted Cruz from endorsing Trump is Trump's comments on Cruz's wife. Trump has been notorious for making fun of women and people and his fellow candidates in the Republican field, and that's what Senator Ted Cruz couldn't get around out of. But now he's had a change of heart, and he's ready to endorse Donald J. Trump for president of the United States, and I think that's very noble of Senator Ted Cruz to keep up with his promise.
Well, then on the other side of things, you have the view that Senator Ted Cruz did not keep up his promise that he made at the Republican National Convention when he said he would not endorse Donald Trump. This was coming on the heels of Donald Trump's crazy campaign against Cruz after Cruz dropped out. Obviously did not want to endorse Trump. He's not a real conservative, not someone who really aligns with the ideals that that Cruz is trying to champion for his supporters. So what happened there is that Ted Cruz is the latest in the political fodder to have fallen to Donald Trump and fallen in line with mainstream Republicans. You watched a holdout for a little bit, and it was interesting, but here we go again. This is it. It's everyone falling in line here for the Republican nominee, and that's what's going to happen. So this is just the continuation of a trend we've seen for a long time, I think.
Well, the Republicans really don't have a choice, Most Republicans don't like Hillary Clinton, and if they vote for a third party, that's basically a vote for Hillary Clinton, and that's just how our electoral college works. So everyone's just falling behind Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Okay. Do you guys believe, should or will Ted Cruz go as far as campaigning with Trump in the final month before the election?
I don't think that Cruz is going to go as far as stretch as to campaigning for Donald J. Trump. I think he's going to just vote for him, and then he's going to go home at the end of the day and be just content about it. I don't think he's going to be happy about it, but he has to be content about it, and that's what his choices are, and that's what his choice is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think it's going to actually affect the race very much at all. When you talk about Ted Cruz, like his evangelical supporters were his main base that he was going to, like the hardliner actual conservatives that he was trying to target. So I don't think those people are actually going to be in Trump's basket at all to any degree. I think these are the people that really, they're going to vote third party. Like my uncle, for example, absolutely hated Trump, but was huge for Ted Cruz, was a delegate for him from Minnesota. Just would never go back to Trump, just could not do it in good conscience. So I don't really think it's going to make a difference. I think the only thing it's going to do is make people hate Ted Cruz a lot more than they already do, which is pretty hard to do.
I definitely agree with you on that, Teddy, with people hating Ted Cruz because of his change of heart. You know, he's very dynamic, and I do agree with the fact that not a lot of his evangelical supporters and really hardcore conservatives are going to agree with Ted Cruz on voting for Trump, and probably will just stay home or vote Gary Johnson.
Okay. Yeah, so, you know, I guess one way that you could look at this as well is Ted Cruz, in this sense, putting the well-being of the nation before the well-being of his own personal issues, like the jabs Trump has taken?
I think he's putting the well-being of the Republican Party, not necessarily the nation. You know, the nation is not the Republican Party. And
That's true.
Putting himself, at first when he made that pledge, you know, he was putting the interest of the Republican Party, but then when he decided not to endorse Trump, he was just putting his own interest in mind, and now that he's had a change of heart, then
Okay. So we've got so much that's a good response. Teddy, do you have anything short you'd like to add to that? Or?
Yeah, I guess I can just talk for a little bit about the fact, just real quick about the fact that if there was a liberal Donald Trump, what that would look like. And I really think that you couldn't have one. Like, you just couldn't have the possibility of someone who could completely hijack a party like this and still get people to fall into line, even hardcore people that are really sticking to their values. So I think it's pretty incredible what we're seeing here. I think it's pretty sad, too.
All right. Yeah, we've got so much more up for you ahead here on Valpo Town Hall. It was a one-of-a-kind debate last night. It really was. Two candidates who disagree on just about everything. We have a breakdown of the major moments. Plus, where do Valpo's students stand in this presidential election? We'll be right back.
Valparaiso University, where passion meets purpose.
We've seen lots of talk about last night's debate at Hofstra University in New York. In the first presidential debate this year, the candidates were put up to the test to defend their stances on the issues and defend themselves from attacks from each other, some of them being very brutal. Last night, Hillary Clinton reignited the conversation about Donald Trump's treatment of women. Let's take a look.
He loves beauty contests, supporting them and hanging around them. And he called this woman Miss Piggy. Then he called her Miss Housekeeping because she was Latina. Donald, she has a name.
Where did you find
her
this?
name
Where
is
did you find
Alicia
this?
Machado.
Where did you find
and
this?
she has become a U.S. citizen, and you can bet she's going to vote this November.
Okay.
Morning, Trump appeared on Fox and Friends to defend his comments, saying, quote, "She was impossible. She was the winner, and you know she gained a massive amount of weight, and it was a real problem. And Clinton found the girl and talked about her like she was Mother Teresa, and it wasn't quite that way. But that's okay. Hillary has to do what she has to do." Alicia Machado won Miss Universe in 1996. Machado has said that Trump called her, quote, Miss Piggy after she gained some weight following the victory, and, quote, Miss Housekeeping because she was from Venezuela. What is your take, guys? Carlos, let's start with you. Do you think Trump was right in rationalizing the name-calling?
I think the point here is that a lot of people take Trump's comments to be so literal rather than just a joke, you know? We as people sometimes make derogatory comments to each other and we don't actually mean it. As for Trump defending his comments on Fox News, I think he's just trying to prove his integrity, and he's come out to be this person who he's really not. If you guys saw the Republican National Convention, you know, we saw a more personal touch of Trump rather than this monster everyone thinks he is. So that's my comment on it, is that people take Trump's comments to be so literal rather than real. I don't think he's actually meaning what he's saying, and people just put words in his mouth.
Well, I mean, I could talk a little bit about the fact that he made those comments on the debate stage of a presidential debate. Like, if you can't trust what your president's saying up there, when are we going to trust the president? Like, you have to take his comments at their word. Like, you can't just go up there and have him say these things about people and then just forget about him. Be like, oh yeah, he was just kidding around. Like, oh yeah, he's totally fine. Just president of the United States.
Clinton also said that her emails were not confidential, and the FBI.
She didn't do that on the debate stage, though. Like, she came out and apologized for that last
She
night.
did that in front of Congress.
Yeah, but that was a completely different scenario we're talking about here. She last night went and owned up about those emails. Donald Trump did not own up to those comments. He says that people are twisting his words. How are you twisting his words when we have sound bites of him doing these exact things?
Well, I guess,
it doesn't make sense to me.
Trump is a businessman. He's not a politician. He's not experienced as Hillary Clinton is debating on stage or being on TV, being in front of crowds of people. You know, Donald Trump is a businessman. He's not as experienced as Clinton when it comes to preparing for something like this. Those comments, he owned up to them because of his proving his integrity, and that's all it is to me.
I mean, I think he really did prove his integrity. I think that's exactly what it was. It's a complete proof of what kind of character this guy's going to be. Like, you want to talk about temperament, like he was talking about Hillary last night, temperament of Donald Trump, someone who's going to call people fat pigs and like
he actually
housekeeping.
He actually said his temperament was his best quality.
Exactly. That's what I like. There's a big disconnect here between the truth and reality, and like the reality and the lies that he's spinning and trying to tell people. It doesn't matter if you're a businessman or a politician. The president of the United States is what he's running for. He has to be able to own up to his comments. You have to do that. That's what every president has ever done. You get this vetting process.
I would not say ever done. I think, presidents prior to the 1900s were less prepared in doing their jobs than presidents today. The government has grown to a size unimaginable. The founding fathers didn't imagine it something like this, and well, it is, and it's just getting a little bit more intense, and I don't think Trump has prepared for this intensity. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, and Clinton reiterated that last night when she said that she's prepared to be president of the United States, and Trump has not prepared to be president of the United States, and that was pretty evident in what the
It isn't always about who's prepared.
I mean, it is, though, when it comes to a presidential debate. Like, you have to be ready and prepared to do it.
We're gonna actually at this time move on to the stop and frisk debate that resurfaced last night. For those of you who aren't aware, and more so in the audience, stop and frisk is when a police officer stops a pedestrian and, quote, frisks them for weapons or other contraband, like drugs, illegal weapons, stuff like that. Here's a clip from CNN's Reality Check last night.
Donald Trump says if you're going to keep crime under control, police might want to bring back more stop and frisk tactics, which he says work like a charm. Hillary Clinton says not so much.
We have to bring back law and order. Now, whether or not in a place like Chicago you do stop and frisk, which worked very well, Mayor Giuliani is here, it worked very well in New York, it brought the crime rate way down. But you take the gun away from criminals that shouldn't be having it.
Stop and frisk was found to be unconstitutional, and in part because it was ineffective. It did not do what it needed to do.
So who's right about this? Well, we do know that from 2002 to 2011, New York really stepped up the number of stop and frisk stops by its police officers there, and crime did go down. But it did not seem to go down proportional to this kind of an increase. Just as importantly, out of about 5 million or more stops during roughly that period of time, guns were found when the people stopped less than 1% of the time, far less. And when stop and frisk was stopped, the crime rate continued to generally go down, all of which suggests that Donald Trump's claims about this one are false and Hillary Clinton's claims are true.
Trump stated that although the law was ruled unconstitutional, that was due to a judge that did not favor the police. Let's go to Teddy first for this one. Do you believe that this tactic is worth pursuing, disregarding its questionable constitutionality?
No. That's pretty plain and simple. I mean, it's been ruled unconstitutional. It's been stopped in many places, especially New York City. Bill de Blasio took it out of effect, especially, like, it's just a massively unconstitutional breach of people's rights in America. You can't just see someone, racially profile them in the street and decide to search them. That's unreasonable. Searches and seizures are protected by our constitutional rights. I don't understand why people still bring this up. Like, why is this still an issue that's, it's been constitutionally decided by the Supreme Court. How can we still be talking about this?
I mean, I agree that it's unconstitutional. However, I mean, TSA stops and frisks us. You know, some of us go into a line where it's just this one bar check, and then another line, it's more intensive screening, and then another line, it's when you're pre-checked and you're just going through the line. You know, yes, it's unconstitutional, but if it's for the safety of of American citizens, then it is the interest of everyone to just comply with the police. You know, they're trying to just keep us safe.
But that's not compliance. When we're looking at airlines here, airlines, you're making a conscious choice to go on an airline. And with the recent history of terrorism on airplanes, you've signed up for this. You know that there's going to be a process where you're going to be checked. You're going to be stopped. You're going to be
terrorism on the streets, you know?
You can't do that, though. You can't walk up to someone on the street who's freely walking around, not agreeing to any checks, and all of a sudden just search him. You can't do that. If you're going on a plane, you realize you're complicit with the fact that you are going to be searched, and you know why. Because there have been terrorist threats. They're real. You don't want to die. But people on the streets, everyone can walk along the street. It's a constitutional right to walk freely. You can't have police come and profile you and just stop you and search you. It's just not legal.
Okay. I don't think it's legal either, but I mean, if they're going to ask you if they can search you.
Unfortunately, we have to wrap this one up again. But while the debate fired up Democrats and Republicans alike, as we can tell just on our own debate right here, undecided voters are the real gauge of where this election will head. We'll take a closer look at where that voter base is headed when we come back.
Good morning, Valparaiso University. What's a better way to start your day than with a new jam? And WVUR has just what you need.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it... If Daniel won't change your mind, baby, right.
Broadcasting sports, news, weather, and music on air, online, and on campus. WVUR is my jam.
We know that Democrats and Republicans are taking their respective sides on the election so far. Now that we're just over 40 days from the election, what are undecided voters thinking? CNN's Pamela Brown spoke to a group of voters in Florida. Let's take a look.
We have to restore trust between communities and the police. We have to work to make sure that our police are using the best training, the best techniques, that they're well prepared to use force only when necessary. Everyone should be respected by the law, and everyone should respect the law.
So let's get some reaction from these undecided voters about Hillary Clinton's performance. What struck you about her performance?
She was prepared. I like that she talked about criminal justice reform because that's one of my biggest issues right now.
Tina, did you feel like you connected with her more?
Yes, I did. She kept to the point. She tried to stay within the time limit where the other opponent kept interrupting her. And I did like when she finally talked about the infrastructure, which I think is very important with the bridges, the power grid, the roads, because we have got to get that taken care of.
And Donald Trump also had some high moments. Here was one of his.
When a person is on a watch list or a no-fly list, and I have the endorsement of the NRA, which I'm very proud of. These are very, very good people, and they're protecting the Second Amendment. But I think we have to look very strongly at no-fly lists and watch lists.
Before the debate, you were leaning toward Donald Trump. After the debate, you're leaning toward Hillary Clinton. Why so?
I think in this debate, Hillary was more consistent in her message. She had solid evidence. She has a plan in action. And Donald Trump did not come prepared for this debate, where he didn't have that material with him. He just kept referring to numbers.
And you're nodding your head.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I feel like Donald Trump didn't answer very many questions. He was all about being in Clinton's face, if you will, and it wasn't appealing at all.
All right, so let's get a show of hands. After this debate, who now knows who they're going to vote for? Is that Hillary Clinton? Yes. Anyone for Donald Trump? Anyone who's still undecided, still has no idea who they're going to vote for come November? All right, so a majority of you all still undecided after this first debate. 2 more debates to go. Still a lot to learn about these candidates.
All right, so Teddy, let's hear your thoughts on the debate's performance last night from Clinton and Trump and how that would affect the undecided voters' opinions.
Well, I think it was pretty plain to see that Clinton won pretty easy-handedly. Absolutely just crushed him in terms of policy making, like ideas, actually putting forth policy positions that she believed in things. And the conversation...
Does she really believe that, or is it a script that she was reading off of, just like any other politician?
No, that's part of her campaign platform, and I mean, she's ascribing to that. That's going to be what she's running on. So what she was reiterating were stances that she's going to be
Well, Hillary Clinton has a history of, saying things and not really getting it done, she says things to get elected.
Well, I mean, does Donald Trump really have a history of getting things done, like the millions of, not millions, but the tens of thousands of people that he's ripped off in his business deals? Hillary Clinton may not have...
Doing business is making deals...
Doing business should not be hurting the American public. That's just something that you don't do. I think this debate really reflected exactly the caliber of person that's going to be president of the United States. I think Donald Trump showed people what he's about, and he held himself together for 10 minutes, and I think he did well for the first 10 minutes. He was very composed, but then very quickly, it was just Hillary Clinton all over. She prepared, she was ready, she was presidential, and
Prepared
she was
and scripted.
completely, not scripted though.
Yeah,
She was
scripted like just
prepared.
like any other politician would.
She was not scripted up there. She made comments off the handle that you would not have expected her to make at all. Like hurting comments towards Donald Trump that were pretty hilarious, that had the crowd going nuts at times. I thought that she really proved to people exactly how much of a quality candidate she is as compared to Trump, especially.
Okay. Well, we still got a little bit of time left. I'd like to hear what you guys think the Valpo campus overall feels about the debate last night, or really the election in general. Not necessarily, you can branch off of more than just the debate if you'd like.
I think Valpo students have said that Trump had done well in the beginning of the show, and then Clinton did better in the end of the show. Valpo's campus is very apolitical. I believe that most students on campus don't really want to get involved in this election because it's a messy election. Not a lot of people want to really vote for this election.
So I held a little debate watching party yesterday at my apartment for all the college Democrats, and the reactions from them were pretty darn positive as far as how Clinton was going. So other than that, that's all I can really talk about, but I think it was generally a good debate.
Okay. Well, that about does it for us for this edition of Valpo Town Hall. Join us next week at the same time, same channel, for all things happening in politics. For Carlos Cabaya, Teddy Reithmeier, and all of us here at VUTV, have a great night, Valpo.